everyone. Welcome to VMN Business Talk. Today we're going to talk about nonprofits as strategic partners, a smarter way for businesses to create impact. If you'd like to catch up on past episodes covering business and marketing, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, and YouTube. We truly appreciate your follows, comments, and likes. They help us bring even more valuable conversations your way. My name is Diana Spinka. I'm the producer of this show. And as always, I'm here with our host, networking and marketing expert, Victor Nichols. Hello, Victor.
Well, hello there. I'm ready.
We're happy to welcome today's guest, Amir Washington, the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of Newark. Hello, Amir.
Hey, Deanna, how are you?
Amir brings a rare perspective. He grew up in the Boys and Girls Club of Newark, rose through every level of the organization, and now leads it with a bold, business-minded approach. And my first question to you, Amir, well, first of all, I want to thank you for being here with us.
My pleasure.
And second, why do you do what you do, and what keeps you committed to this work?
Yeah, certainly. I do what I do because, as you said, I was a member of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Newark here, and I always have the pleasure to tell people I grew up here at this club since the age of 6. So this organization is near and dear to my heart, and I had the fortune to name this facility after the woman who was my clubhouse director who still works here. She's closing on her 75th birthday, Cynthia M. Banks. And what keeps me coming back is the pleasure of watching young people evolve into the thing that they believe they could become but weren't 100% sure about it, and watching that evolution in real time. You know, it's amazing to see a 13-year-old who's not quite sure, not quite confident. They know they want to do something and be something, but then when you see them blossom into this incredible 17-year-old leader who's helping the organization win awards for advocacy and doing leadership work throughout the nation, right, and traveling across the country, it just warms my soul to see those young people evolve into the people they will one day become.
How did it personally change you?
You know, for me, it was really just about understanding people and understanding different walks of life. You know, Newark was very, predominantly African-American in the community I grew up in, a lot of Hispanics, but there were other people in Newark that I didn't get to interact with on a daily basis outside of my local community and outside of schools. And so what the Boys and Girls Club did for me was opened up an understanding of the world through direct contact. I read a lot. I love different kinds of cultures, but I didn't get to see those, through my own family activities until I was involved with the Boys and Girls Club, and just opened up so many doors and understandings about business, about life, about people in general, and how you communicate and engage with them. And so it gave me everything that I needed, and particularly because, I didn't have a dad growing up. My dad passed away when I was 2.5 years old. So I always looked at the Boys and Girls Club as my father, because there I had positive role models where, many of the young people and older guys in my community were not involved in positive and let's say law-abiding activities.
Right.
Yeah, so when businesses support nonprofits like yours, you see it as a very meaningful way to impact, to help someone else's life, that means a lot. It's not just money that's going to be spent on some stuff. It's actually something that changes lives, right?
100%. I mean, that is the quintessential impact that people are having when they invest in nonprofits. And so when you give dollars, you often don't see what you're creating. You have trust in an organization like ours, and you expect us to do the work. When you volunteer, you get to actually feel it and live it. And that's when people really get a true understanding of what the dollars mean, right? It's not about the money. It's always about the money, but it's not about the money. It's about what the money does. The money allows a young person to travel to Washington, D.C., to meet their government officials, to talk to them in the office in the place where they work every day on their behalf, and for them to be able to stand up and say, hey, here's what we want you to do, and here's how we want you to engage with us, right? Because the perfect image of a politician is working for the people. And so to be able to see young people have that conversation is something that happens in organizations like the Boys and Girls Club every single day across the country. And so when people are able to see and witness what young people become, and I always tell stories about individuals like Vaughn Crow, who's now a managing director at a venture capital firm. He's from the West Ward of Newark, New Jersey, and that, a few years older than I, and grew up in a very dangerous environment as well. And so to be able to cross the barrier of what we think is possible for young people from Newark is a huge thing. And I mean, he's doing incredible stuff and investing in B2B software development companies.
which is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge. And I think so when you're, I mean, obviously specifically for your nonprofit, but as I see other nonprofits, Habitat for Humanity and the other things, not just in Newark, but all over, you start to really understand why it's such an integral part of our society, right? And why it's so necessary and why it needs to continually be funded. So that is something, again, you don't learn that when you just start out in business. She's like, look, I just want to survive. I want to eat. I want to, I mean, I'm not looking to give away something that I don't even have. But then you start to realize that, you know what, you don't have to just give away money, you give away time, which is far more valuable, far more valuable, right? And knowledge and teaching. So this is why I was so excited about having this conversation.
Yeah. So what are the ways for businesses to partner with nonprofits, like beyond donations?
So there are ways for even small businesses, right? Like right now we have a young videographer who has a company, and they're doing a video for our gala, right? And so he's able to work with us, help us tell our story to our community members, our stakeholders, but also generate money for his business, right? But also by doing that, he gets an understanding of what we do on a daily basis. And when he's interviewing the kids, he's like, wow, these kids are amazing that are doing this interview. Like, how do they have so much confidence when they're young, right? And so you get not only that touch, but you also there's a business opportunity there. There's also, right, the volunteer engagement stuff. And what's so important is for young people to see professionals who are doing great, who are making money, who work at the companies they hear about on television. And so we have great partnerships with groups like Citi, PGIM, Citizens Bank, Apple, and so many others that put experiences in kids' hands and help them learn what it is to work in their environments. And right, kids are pursuing different kinds of activities. Imagine being able to meet professionals every single day, every week, who are doing the thing you want to do and be able to build that relationship in a safe environment, and then start building a network when you're a young person, right? Imagine if you had the network today that you have as an adult that you had when you're 14, you started building it then. And that just completely changes the game for a young person when they're able to touch business leaders, global philanthropists, individuals who are doing incredible things in their local community, and they're doing it authentically. And so I think that's the magic.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's amazing. So they are able to get sponsorships, or not sponsorship, like internships. And that's so cool. Yeah, because I didn't have that growing up. And I think the earlier you start like realizing and get involved with things like that, the wider your perspective on the world is.
Oh my God. That is something that is so incredible. And one of the recent stories is, the Black Lives Matter movement kicked off, and every time there's a school shooting, a mass shooting, there's always conversations around guns. And so we have a partner who's been coming here almost every single week, multiple days a week, and he's in the financial industry. His idea was, hey, let's teach financial literacy, but let's also connect young people with business leaders from different walks of life that they may have interest in. And he invited a guy who owns the largest gun range here in New Jersey. And the kids were like ready to go. Like, why do you have that? Why do we have guns? Why are you doing this? And he had other businesses in construction and real estate. And guns are not safe in this and that, right? And he talked to them about, right, the right to own guns in the United States. And from his perspective, it's not going away. I would rather teach gun safety. Nobody can come into my range and shoot unless they learn gun safety, unless they take a course and that they've been clear, right? And so having that communication lets them learn and understand, while you may not agree with why this thing exists, there's somebody who, from his perspective, is doing it responsibly. It's something that he sees as a right that's not going to be challenged. And right, that always comes up as a part of the conversation. So real, interesting, sensitive conversations take place with young. I mean, these are 13 or 14, 15-year-old kids who have this
big conversation,
right? A big conversation, right? Because it's political, it's personal, it's about safety, it's about danger, right? Because we don't want guns around kids getting, and kids getting harmed by guns. But at the same time, we understand why guns are in our country and our community for several reasons. And it's so much to unpack, right? And we have the fortune in our organization to be able to do that kind of work and conversation with kids from the time they're 6 years old all up until they're 18. And then if they continue to come back as alumni, right? And so it's like a lifelong relationship. I mean, I've been here now for almost 40 years. It's just been a part of my soul.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for commenting. Your comments are so valuable. If you have any questions for me or for Victor, or if you have a question that's related to business, nonprofits, don't hesitate to ask. We have time to answer your questions. And thank you again for watching our stream, and thank you for getting involved. So what nonprofits actually need from businesses beyond the money?
So beyond money, there are great things that businesses can do, and one is sharing information. I had, a good conversation with John Pearson, who's the head of the Horizon Foundation, about AI. And he said, we are integrating AI in these ways in our business. And I said, I've thought about it. I've used the different tools myself to kind of explore them. Where do you see the integrations that make sense for us as a nonprofit organization? What we learned in COVID is, right, we work with young people. It's a very, client in your face, direct kind of engagement, right? It doesn't really work well, through technology. We do those kinds of programs and touch points, but engaging people face to face is our bread and butter. But what he allowed me to see was how in our development space, in our marketing, in our communications, and speeding up document development. And then we're going to be doing some training next week on automations and in email, right? To make us more efficient, to make us better at business and in the way we do our work with our partners, right? Because one thing about organizations like ours is that we appear to be, right, this recreation organization, and we're much more complex than that. But our back office is similar to any kind of business, large or small, in the way that we work and communicate the efficiency we want to develop. And so I always say, and I know Vic will probably have a laugh about this, is that I don't see us as a charity. I see us as a business that provides charitable services to the community, right? And so I want our team to be able to respond quickly. I want us to have the best technology, the best tools to make sure that we're delivering for both the people who invest, which is our donor partners, our corporate partners, and also our community. And so now we have, text messages so we can give up-to-the-minute updates to parents. So learning that and just thinking through the nuances of how AI applications apply to our business was a great conversation. And it doesn't require him turning over another dollar.
Right. And it gives you that insight from his perspective, and because of where he sits,
right,
at there, the fact that he deals with their philanthropy and things of that nature, you can get insights of not only just what's impacting you, but also the other folks that he's dealing with,
right,
his universe, what other nonprofits are saying and doing that you may not have the opportunity, because there's just only so many hours in a day, but that's a job. Okay. that, that you can get that. And I think that communication piece, I always say that everything comes down to communication. If you communicate, you can win, and you can also at least make yourself clear. And I think you had even alluded to it earlier in our conversation. You don't always have to agree with something.
That's right.
But if you communicate properly, at least you can understand it, right? Mm-hmm. And have open dialogues about it. And you may even change your mind, depending on
100%. And even with the AI piece, I also had the fortune to.
That's why I wore my shirt today. That's why I wore my.
I love that.
See that?
Actual interaction. Well, that's a whole nother conversation we talk about a lot. But AI was such this thing for many of us 5, 6, or 7 years ago. It was coming, and today the language is now it's here. And what that engagement with businesses allows us to do is learn that, hey, you can actually code an application from start to finish and watch it run in real time. And I didn't know that until talking to the chief technology officer at Prudential, right? We were partnered in this program together. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. We're actually coding an app, and we're getting ready to deploy an app on the App Store, which we're beta testing by the end of this week. And he's showing me all these different integrations that I can include with my team to give me more bandwidth, right? So I don't need to necessarily hire another person, right? Because that costs money and a whole bunch of time and energy. You can use some AI tools to integrate that into what he's doing. And then here's some management tools for you to use, since you're not a coder. I've done a little bit of coding, but I couldn't bring it out to market on my own. But AI, I could, right? So that's the power of these relationships, is that it allows you to be connected to so many different conversations that you don't need to be in a room when they're happening.
Mm-hmm.
So since we're talking about partnerships, Victor, you've been in business for over 40 years. Can you share a case where you were involved as a marketing professional with a partnership or with nonprofit? I'm sure you have one or two cases in your pocket.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, I'm trying to think of the best one. I mean, actually, the one that I mentioned earlier with the Girl Scouts was probably it was a very significant one, because the partnership that we were able to build was, again, not only about how I could help them, but what they were also open to find out how they could help me. Okay. So I helped them. Obviously, I helped them with promotion, and I helped them with finding new board members, and I helped them with finding volunteers and things like that. But then they came back to me and said, "Hey, Vic, we have things that we need that we're prepared to pay for. Okay. And things that you do that we would like to partner with you on a longer term relationship and build something out that's going to be mutually beneficial." Well, again, I never had gotten involved with a nonprofit with the idea that they would become a client. Some have, Amir, you and I have worked together, and certainly Habitat for Humanity and some of the other folks that I've worked with as an actual quote unquote vendor. But that's never really the reason for doing it. So I think the partnering piece is very important, and that it should be an upfront part of the conversation, so everybody knows that there are opportunities. It doesn't always work out that way, that's for sure. But I think when you have that conversation, it deepens your relationship from Jump Street, right? Because you now know you're dealing with somebody, another partner, who has your interest in mind, just not their own interest in mind. And I think that's a very, to me, that's the most important part of why I've indoctrinated more nonprofits into my, activities. I mean, most chambers are nonprofits as well. And I've actually just joined a chamber board, which is something I hadn't done in many, many years, but realize that this is important. It's not just important. It's important for me to give what I have to give at this stage in my career and help grow these things. So these smaller businesses, younger people, just like you're doing, Amir, can have opportunities to talk to people and work with professionals in order to jumpstart their careers. So that's my feeling about nonprofits.
And do you guys have a failed case, like something that didn't work out, and why things can not work out? I guess as in any partnership, but specifically with nonprofits.
Yeah, I think, I don't know that I would necessarily use the word failure, but I think one of the biggest challenges in the nonprofit landscape is everybody talks about collaboration. And what often happens is that there's this pressure to collaborate nonstop. But in any business partnership, any business relationship, whether it's for-profit business to business or nonprofit to for-profit or otherwise, there's the important matter of fit and sensibility to why you're partnering, right? We can't partner with everyone. We don't have the bandwidth. We don't have the time. We don't have the financial capacity. No one does. And you want to make sure that the partnership makes sense for both parties. Oftentimes, and Vic just said this, the nonprofits are often looking for funding opportunities. But the other part of this work is, and I've told my team this many times, it's like my job often is to serve our donor partners with what their interests are and what their priorities are, because they're investing in us and dealing with us for a reason that benefits them personally as individuals, and also that benefits their business. And sometimes that's financial. Sometimes it's from making sure that they're investing appropriately in the right things, because not all nonprofits operate the same. Not all of them are as efficient. There have been stories about how money's been utilized. And so when people partner, they got to make sure that it all works and makes sense, and everybody's brand is protected. So I think it's a very important thing, as opposed to focusing on failure, is developing the right partnerships and collaboration at the right time. We can always do small things, activity, community-based events. When you're talking about exchanging ideas, exchanging dollars, spending a long time with someone, you want to make sure that you're partnering with the right person. One, that you're not wasting their time and their resources, and vice versa, because we all have limited time in the day, and we have so many projects going on, right? And the concept in America for probably the last 5 decades was to do more with less, right? And there's complications around those ideas. And I'm trying to think, one thing recently that happened for us was we had a eye care partner who provided free examinations and eyeglasses, but they were based out of Utah. And we have a dental clinic here still, as well as a wellness clinic. But that partnership ended up not being able to work because they had great intentions. They had a different model than the other platforms for our healthcare work, but they were having trouble getting funding here in New Jersey. And so they weren't able to build the momentum to serve as many kids as we would have liked. And so we say, you know what, it probably makes the most sense for us to sunset this partnership and relationship. We're still a great organization, I Care for Kids, but they probably have more success and have had more success in the West Coast where they're based than they've had here in Newark and New Jersey. And we did it for, I think, 2 or 3 years. And then it just, makes sense to move on. And, even with our dental clinic, we had a model where we were the operator in terms of we had a receptionist, they would schedule clients, and then we had all volunteer dentists. And over time, right, that became tenuous. And so we decided to eliminate that model. And then we started to partner with the Kindersmile Foundation. So in failure of that kind of evolution, we found the partner who is an expert in the work. They're a nonprofit organization, great intentions, great leadership, great people. They've been running our clinic since 2019, suffered through the pandemic and not being able to help young people. But now we're seeing anywhere from 30 to 140 community members and club members every single month. And so it's just incredible that a young person can be here at our club, be playing basketball or in a STEM center, come downstairs, get a teeth clean, get an x-ray, get their orthodontics done, and then they can run right back up into programming with or without their parents based on permission. So those are ways that partnerships, when they stop making sense, you can always pivot. But I say do the work on the front end and make sure that you're building the right partnership and collaboration, whether it's nonprofit to nonprofit or nonprofit to business.
Yep. That's
for-profit business.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Doing that homework up front and because it is work, right? Because you have to sit down, you have to make sure you understand what the two parties are interested in, right? And then when you come to the meetings of the minds,
right,
that's when you have that's when you have the beginning of a very, very powerful partnership, whether, like you said, whether it's short-term or long-term.
Yeah.
You clearly, your relationship is designed to be within the four corners of that, that agreement, right? And that you can understand what each person is responsible for. So that
100%. And the one thing I'll add is people are generally happy when they reach out and that this is not a fit right now and it's not going to work. And you tell them that, because they know, you know what, I don't want to spend time setting up a call, having a meeting for you to tell me no 2 weeks later.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. Because no is a very, very, very powerful word, but it's also a good word to hear when you're trying to, be efficient,
Yeah, you were talking about long-term partners, and I had a question about that. Do you have most of the partnerships that you have, are they long-term, or they're like 2 months, 3 months, or like one event, 2 events?
It depends on the partner. And, we have a partner who puts on our 5K with us, and they're a paid vendor, and we partner with them once a year for this event. We have touch points throughout the year, but they come, they show up, they set everything up for us from a racing perspective, and we're able to manage the community aspect of that 5K run. And, we have had the fortune and pleasure to be partnered with great organizations like the Prudential Financial Foundation, as well as the Victoria Foundation, who've been our partners for 30, 40, 50 years, depending on which organization I'm talking about, right? And so those long-term partnerships help us build a strong foundation in the community to help us continue to be able to invest in our team, invest in the work, our young people that we're doing. And then we have partners who come and go, some who, make a gift 1 year, or some person who volunteers just one time. And all we're trying to do is make sure that that person is having a wonderful experience when they're with us. And, when we get it wrong, we feel poorly about it. And so I think there's a number of them. We've been around for over 80 years. And so we've had, all types, and we still continue to have all types. But I love the longer term partnerships because that helps us really deliver on our strategic plan.
I have a question for you. What are you doing when somebody reaches out to you? Are you actively going to look for them? Are they coming? Is it more reactive, or is it proactive, or is it a little bit of both?
It's a little bit of both. I think depending on what we're doing. So if it's STEM, or if it's our Learn to Swim program, we may be looking for particular partners to help us teach more kids how to swim, to make sure that they're safe in the water. We may be looking for different partners to help us with a different aspect of our STEM program. So Apple's been incredible with product donations and funding. We've had another group that supported us with podcasting. And, we have different partners that are supporting us with some other work that we're doing in the space from robotics, the Armor Roy Foundation. And so different partners are able to help us kind of pull things up different ways. And sometimes they reach out to us and it's a match made in heaven. Sometimes we reach out to them. It's a match made in heaven. And sometimes it works both ways where we have a conversation and figure out that it doesn't work. But I think whenever I reach out to someone, I want to understand long before I reach out to them why I'm doing it, what I'm asking for, and what I'm looking for them to do with me, so that they're not confused about the conversation. And so that, because I've been a part of those engagements where you have to have 3 conversations before you realize, like, what are we even going to be doing together?
Yeah, right. What is it for? Right, exactly.
And the busier I've become over, the last couple of years, like the less I have time to do that. I think when you're early in your career as an executive, you're trying to meet everyone and anyone, because depending on where you started in your career, I spent a lot of time in programming. So my head was in the building for the most part with young people. My mindset wasn't focused around donor relationships because it just wasn't a part of my job so much. But when I became CEO, it was like I went to everything. I attended everything. I took almost every meeting because, right, there's this desire to be approachable, accessible. And then as we become busier, we've doubled in size, more than doubled in size from a budget standpoint, as well as from a people standpoint. And so now my time is stretched. And so I lean a lot more on other individuals to do some of that outreach, to do some of those meetings. And one of the synthesis I use a lot is, do I need to be a part of that? Right. And it's not because I don't want to meet someone or talk to them, but because we have so many different priorities that I have to focus on. And so it's like where I spend my time has to be, the best use of it at this stage, just because there's so many different activities we have going on. And I think my hair's still on fire from last year and I'm still losing it.
I love it. Look, you're talking about what you just outlined really is the idea that running a nonprofit and a growing nonprofit is a business. And I think a lot of people like to think, for some reason, I don't know if it's for romantic reasons or whatever, they like to think of nonprofits as strictly mission oriented, and that the business doesn't exist. And I'm like, you can't have a mission without having money. And okay, and the money is just an idea. The money part is where the business happens. And I think because one of the reasons, Amir, why I have such admiration for you and what you've been able to achieve is because you think like a business person, but you have the insight of someone who understands they're running a nonprofit, but it's done in a business-like fashion.
Yeah.
That's why.
Thank you.
That's why you're growing. That's why you're growing.
I appreciate that.
About
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I think the misconception, and I think it's from Puritan ethics and things like that. And this is like centuries ago, right? Like not something, or a century ago, not something that people just thought to do. I think the concept is noble and authentic to making sure that the people that are giving aren't benefiting from the gift giving that they're doing it out of the goodness of their heart, out of the desire to really help people, right? Because what we do is essentially do the work of, let's say, our government that they don't have the time or expertise to do, right? Like we don't want our governor to be sitting in the classroom all day. Like we want them focused on what needs to be done for the state, fixing our roads, lowering our taxes, and all those good things, right? And making housing affordability a real thing again in New Jersey. And so what nonprofits are really tasked to do to be the intermediary for people on the ground who are at the margins, who need a leg up, who need some help and support with their kids so they can work an extra job. And the misconception, though, is that this business operation, right, because we have to do our annual filing like everybody else every year, and it says it's just a tax designation, right? And our focus, we're not doing this to generate profits to enrich an individual extravagantly, right? So, and that's the only difference, is that we could raise $10 billion and positively impact thousands upon thousands and millions of more people, because the emphasis of the money isn't to put a ton of money in my pocket or anybody else's pocket, but to ensure that more and more people can have the services and supports they need, and that the dollars from our for-profit partners, who often can generate an excess of money in the billions of dollars, in the hundreds of millions of dollars, can provide that support without needing to be the experts in the work that we do, right? Most most people I meet sometimes they're like, I don't know how you work with kids, right? And they come here and they love it, but they love being able to not have to be here every day for 4 or 5 and sometimes 10 hours in the summer. And so they get to get that dose of love without having to be 100% committed. But it's just like your own kids, is right. Like you can't send them anywhere else except when you can. And these kids, I always say, we get to send them home, and sometimes home isn't always the best thing for them depending on where they are. And some of the work we do gets, let's say, negatively impacted, and we're starting fresh the next day. But luckily, we get to do that over a number of years and work with the parent and provide support to families as well, because we don't just service the kid. And so I think that is important, that people recognize we have a facility. We have to pay an electric bill too, and a heating bill, and all the different things, and have insurance, and have an opportunity for people to take time off. And so the same things people want in for-profit industry to improve their lives and make sure that they feel good about working where they are, we do the same thing. Because trust me, our team, when they want something, they're going to tell us. Like, we want more mental health days, we want more support, we want more training and development. And as much as people give us, as much as corporations partner with us, they can't individually give us enough to operate on our own. So we have a ton of partners, and that's to our benefit, but we also have to be intelligent about how do we help ourselves develop more resources, generate more revenue, so that we can continue to support these efforts that have made us, I think, one of the best clubs in the country, in my opinion.
Do you have a list of partners you're looking for somewhere on a website?
No, no, I don't. And the reason I say that is because I'm not looking for any particular partner. I'm looking for the right partners. And I think this is the challenge that a lot of nonprofits, and even us before I was CEO, and even some, especially early on, is that all the money out there, so much money out there, there's tons of people giving away billions upon billions of dollars, right? And they're giving that where they have a heart to give it. And that's important. And the reason why I don't have this list of specific individuals or entities is because when I'm looking for a partner, or when I'm going to be talking to someone, I'm talking to them for a reason and a purpose. What our team does do is a lot of research around what our core competencies are, our priorities from a strategic planning perspective, and say, who are the right partners for these things? And so we do develop a list against that. But we don't keep a running list anywhere on our website, because there's 15,000 IT companies that are reaching out and saying, hey, we do IT, we do it for other Boys and Girls Clubs. Well, we've got an IT partner now. And so unless there's some really different thing that you're going to do for significantly less money, and until they screw up, like, we're probably not going to make that transition. So I think we keep a list, but we don't publish it, because we want to make sure that when we're reaching out, we're having an authentic conversation. And one of the things I always tell people in my team is that we do everything from a major gift focus, or let's say a relationship focus. Hey, we're the Boys and Girls Club. We're reaching out for this reason. We looked at your website, or we met someone, and we'll have the conversation with that person for these specific reasons. Does this make sense and align with what your priorities are from a funding standpoint, from a business standpoint? And so that's, for us, the first layer, because what we want to make sure is that the people we're talking to are intending to do the work with us that we're doing. And one of the things I always counsel people on in Boys and Girls Club and nonprofits is, don't chase dollars for dollars' sake. The most important thing is to make sure that you're talking to partners about what you're doing and their desire to invest in the things you already do. Because one of the things that often happens is that people will create programs to align with what a particular funding partner is doing, or they'll allow the funding partner to make them or influence them to develop something that fits their priority, which is out of their core competence or mission creep, right? And so what we try to do is say, hey, we're going to be really good at learn to swim program, swim team, STEM, wellness, and our teen workforce development programming, and our general youth development program. And that's where we're going to focus our conversations. We're not going to start trying to do massive hunger investment and try to serve millions upon millions of people, because we don't have the capacity for that. So there may be a $10 million government grant or whatever out there to do that. There's a great organization that's already doing that work that should have that money. We shouldn't be looking at that $10 million as a carrot to inflate our budget, just because there's money out there.
Right, exactly. You did say something earlier, and I know that we're probably getting down to a point where we're going to be wrapping things up. But one thing I just wanted to emphasize too, since we're talking about nonprofits as strategic partners, is that also nonprofits can partner with other nonprofits.
Yes.
which is something I don't think a lot of people think of. They
Mhm.
think that nonprofits are floating out there completely independent and they're almost competing, right, with other nonprofits, which is in many, 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 many cases not the case, right?
Yeah.
You're doing things that you can collaborate on. You can have, different types of collaborations that actually help both nonprofits as they come together as a partnership. So I just wanted to mention that so people can understand too, because there may be people out there listening to this who are involved with different nonprofits, but would never in a million years think of put those two nonprofits in touch with each other.
Right.
Right. Because they're not thinking that way.
Yeah. And I think that's a big point, because I think it goes back to the collaboration thing I was talking about, where people are always pushing nonprofit organizations to collaborate, but really not identifying if it really makes sense. I think because we all do this great mission work,
Right.
and many of us do have replication of services, and sometimes it would make more sense for us to join forces and do a thing together to have bigger impact, as opposed to try to go at it alone. And so I think that's been a big part of what we've been doing with a group like the Armor Roy Foundation. Even though they're a funding partner, they're very much a new organization that's been around for about 6 or 7 years, if I get my math right. And they've been raising money to fund organizations like us who have STEM programs to make sure that the legacy of Manisha Roy and Priya Roy's young son, Armand, who passed away at 15 unexpectedly, is remembered for the thing he was pursuing to help other young people get access to technology and learn how to become software engineers and otherwise. And so that is where that mission alignment happens. And when it happens, it becomes magic, because we've been able to put on these huge STEM events with kids being able to see high school and college students who are participating in robotics competitions.
Right.
And after now, I believe it's the 3rd year that we've been partnering with them, our kids are going to be going to their first robotics competition on February 22nd and actually competing, right? And so to be able to do that from soup to nuts with the group, right, that was the right partnership, because we were already focused on STEM and investing in robotics and coding. And so it made perfect sense, to work with a group that was getting ready to develop, AI charging roads, that is a thing that we've talked about. That would have made more sense with our teen program from a workforce development perspective. And we don't currently have that partnership, because I still think it's only happened in Detroit and some other places. But that's something we would be interested in, but it would have to make sense, and we would have to be truly committed to that activity. Right. So I think you're 100% correct on that nonprofits, they do partner together, they should partner together, but they should make sure they're partnering with the right nonprofit partner.
Right.
I have another question that is probably for both of you, not just for Amir. Do you see, or maybe you talk to your partners, right? But do you see a change in their employees, mindset, behavior? Because it's very good to have this logo of nonprofits that you partner with, but what impact it actually has on employees of those companies?
I don't know, Vic, if you want to go first, I'm more than happy. But.
Well, I mean, because I've never actually run a nonprofit, but I've been involved with nonprofits and have donated my time and effort and been on, builds for houses and all kinds of different things. I've, at least firsthand, from having participated in those things as a volunteer, I've seen the change in real time. What's going on with those people who are employees of a particular company or particular organization, because it helps build teamwork. It helps them build teamwork outside of a work environment, okay? Outside of what the company does. You're working towards something that has a bigger purpose, but they're still getting the teamwork part of it, the team building part of it while they're doing this. And you can see it. You can see there's sometimes there's competition, sometimes, hey, we can do this, you know what I mean? And it's fun. So I've seen it firsthand by participating in it, why that is so important, because again, it rolls back to what we were saying before. It's just good freaking business. Okay. It's good business to be involved with a nonprofit and donate your time and effort. So that's from my perspective.
Yeah. I mean, from my perspective, I think organizations have been changing a lot. And I think historically, a lot of groups, particularly corporates, would just make a donation. And over the last several years, the conversation has been, well, we will sponsor, or we may sponsor, but we really want to get involved on the ground. And I guess one of the most important partners of recent memory for us, and with the new management that's there in the foundation that they've built, the Devil's Youth Foundation has been huge, and one of the groups that has held to their word about how they want to engage community. A lot of organizations get involved and they can do stuff at one shot. The Devils have been an incredible partner from giving as well as community engagement. And so when they were doing their strategic plan and looking at how they serve Newark, they brought nonprofit leaders and other individuals in to have a conversation with them. They've done videos with us on both ends of the spectrum, that they produce, that we've done and been at our gala. We're going to be honoring them this year. And one of the testaments to people wanting to get their hands dirty in this work is we put on this huge pizza party in September with Disrupt Foods, who's a Papa John's franchisor and founded by a former club member and his partners. And we were at the venue. They gave us the venue for free. We had to pay for some other stuff, but they were incredibly accommodating throughout the process and met with us through the entire process as they would any partner. But then on the night of, when we had some challenges around, getting people in the door and accounting what was going on, we had like a whole team of Devils professionals from the foundation who didn't have to do this, who just rolled up their sleeves and got involved and was working with us until the event was over. And then we had a bunch of water left over that were poured into cups that they spent time pouring back into these huge containers so that our partner at Disrupt could get them out of the building because they had to get ready for another event, right? And the executive director, Kate Annis, is there with her team members doing that work with our team, and they're bonding and having conversations. And so that's the way organizations and corporations and partners have changed, is that they really want to be involved in the work and really want to be a part of changing the young people's lives and meeting them. And Kate and others have served on our Youth of the Year selection committee. They want to be able to feel the impact they're having in real time and give their team members that experience, because the younger generation wants that hands-on engagement and they want something to feel like they belong to. That's going to have an impact on people who don't necessarily have all the experiences and opportunities that they may have had or have started to have as they've gotten to their career. And so that's the big change we're seeing, in the organizations that are really authentic about it are actually delivering on that statement that they want to get involved.
Yeah, and I guess you want to work for a company that does something good for the world, not just services, produces stuff or services, that there is a meaning behind it. And, strategic partnership with nonprofits can deliver that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing I'll add, it's like a company like Amazon was, for a long time, they didn't, have a lot of philanthropic activities early on, but they even have started to do a ton with Boys and Girls Clubs across the country and providing product donations and supporting different programs. And so I think some of that's probably the internal energy of their team members who've been coming into the organization saying we want to be more impactful in community, and probably from others who are saying, hey, they're making tons of money, they should be doing more for community. And so I think as things evolve, as those conversations have evolved in our society, they've stepped up to the plate in many ways, and done that with, at least us and other organizations throughout the world. And so I think that's important, to be able to have that dialogue, right? When community partners, nonprofit organizations are able to talk to business leaders, owners, entrepreneurs, and really share and have an open dialogue. I also saw that happen with many of the traditional foundations, and looking at how do we better serve our constituent nonprofits who, we know have had challenges historically with funding, with, navigation, with executive development and all those things, and really sitting together, but then bringing us and saying, hey, what are your needs? What are your challenges? And really keeping that conversation going more than one time. And I'm sure, Vic, right?
Yeah.
Some of these conversations happen once, and it's kind of a thing where, we checked the box, we did that. But now it's like an entire process that's happening over a number of years. And so it's good to see that energy.
So thank you so much for your time and for everything that you shared on the stream. So as the last message for businesses, for entrepreneurs out there who want to get involved with nonprofits, what do you have to say to them?
Sure. I mean, I would say get involved in something that you're passionate about, that you believe in, and something that you see a benefit to, the individuals that are being served. I mean, ultimately, we serve young people. We're focused on young people, but we're also focused on family. And we want to fill in the gaps where a person or a family has challenges. If somebody, doesn't have funding for school when they're going to college, we're able to provide scholarship support we're able to engage our board members and supporters to help with that, whether it's scholarships or direct gifts to Boys and Girls Club to provide that support, and to also think about what kids need and what industries are going to be developing over time, and how we can be engaged in those conversations to make sure that we're ahead of the curve too, so we know how to shift programming. And so I think it's just finding a person, a group that you're interested in, that you feel that there's a great relationship and authenticity to the engagement. And I think, as much as we can, right, we always need funding, we always need financial support, but making sure that partners understand what that money is going to do, right? Like, we're not just taking the money for the sake of taking the money, we're taking the money to change the lives of young people. And so if people believe that, I think that's a great partnership that can be developed. But I always tell people, help someone somewhere, whether it's Boys and Girls Clubs or any other organization, because no matter what, we need funding, we need partners, we need collaboration, we need engagement, communication, sharing of ideas to be able to continuously respond to the changes in our society. The Boys and Girls Club of Newark and those across the country are completely different in so many ways from what we were when we were started by 4 women back in early 19 or mid 1900s, 1865, I believe it was, or 1860. And it was largely just recreation and engagement and conversation and a safe place to be. We're still all of that, but we're so much more. And so I think identify the organizations like us that are or completely different from us, whether it's your university or whatever, and provide support to the next group coming up, because ultimately that's what Newark, New Jersey, and the United States of America will become, is what you invest in.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Victor, and you as a vendor, what would you like to say to businesses?
That you get so much out of it, and it's similar to what Amir was saying as far as the way you feel. But I know through my career of really it's almost creeping up on 45 years, which I can't even believe, and the different nonprofits that I've been involved with, seeing the result of how they've grown, seeing what it was that I was able to help with. There's gratification on both sides. And you need to understand that gratification is not just monetary. It's not just what you might have gotten out of it from that aspect, but how it makes you feel, right? And but Amir was saying, align yourself with an organization that speaks to you, and you will always get something out of it.
Thank you, everyone. Eric, Martha, Catherine, Connor, Kim, Justin, Alexis, thank you, everyone, for commenting and watching us. I believe we'll meet once again on the stream, because there are so many topics to talk about.
I'm more than happy to come back. I think there's some of my team members watching too. I heard some familiar names. So I'm sure they'll give me the third degree.
Well, thank you, everyone.
Thanks for having me.
See you again. Have a good day.